Hello, welcome to the Cincinnati Fire Museum. I'm Congressman Brad Wenstrup, and I'm honored to be able to be with you today. And I wanted to read you a story about Molly Williams, and the book is entitled Molly by Golly. And we read this to you with permission from Boyd's, Mills, and Kane. So let me start and tell you about Molly Williams. We'll start in a fire station years ago. Our Molly is a fine cook, as any in the New York City area, the lads of Fire Company number 11 like to boast. In fact, she's wondrous fine. Molly's hasty pudding is tastiest, the captain always said. No, sir, Isaac would declare, it's her chicken roly-poly makes a man's mouth water. Hot apple tansy is Molly's most delicious dish, Jonas was sure to insist. The argument would go around the Fire Company's table until the very last bite of venison stew or codfish muddle had disappeared. But one thing the men agreed, Molly, by golly, put hands and heart to every task, in or out of the kitchen. On a wintry day, she proved just how wondrous fine she should be. Inside the cozy kitchen of Mr. Aramar's house, Molly Williams briskly whisked cornmeal, eggs, and buttermilk in an earthenware bowl. Outside, snowflakes swirled thick as cream. Snowdrifts stood tall as haystacks. Molly stirred glowing embers in the hearth oven and worried. As the Johnny cakes baked, a fierce wind knocked at the door and whistled through chinks in the red brick walls. Molly worried more. Snow covered the neighborhood that morning, and a terrible sickness had spread like a thick blanket over scores of households. Influenza. Many of the volunteer firefighters were already sick. Even Mr. Aramar laid abed with it. Molly scratched the upturned chin of Eliza, one of her many household cats, and wondered aloud, if a blaze sparks in a blizzard such as this, what will our poor fire lads do? Molly recognized a sound growing louder above the whine of the snowstorm. Had her worry about fire come true? Church bells, clang, clang, clang. They sang out a fire alarm. The number of times they chimed told Molly just where the trouble was. Something's afire, Eliza, and it's nearby. Molly wrapped a heavy woolen shawl around her shoulders and dashed out to spread the news. Molly spied a small knot of neighborhood boys speeding toward her with lanterns held high. Runners. Molly, by golly, led them through the snow-filled alleyways and icy cobblestone streets. The runners rattled clankers and rang muffin bells. Fire, they all cried. Come out, come out. Men burst from their homes with bootstraps flapping and coattails flying. Women and children tossed out leather water buckets. Molly and the runners scooped them up as they raced to the fire company's equipment shed. Volunteers busily loaded axes, pulled down hooks, and coils of rope into the fire wagon. Molly took a quick count. She'd never seen so few men answer a call. The captain lifted the buckets from her aching arms. Molly, by golly, he said, you're always ready to lend a hand. These hands can do much more than bake Johnny cakes, she thought. She clapped a weathered leather helmet on her head, strapped spatterdashes over her wooden leggings, and pulled on heavy work gloves. Wait for me, she cried. Molly, by golly, exclaimed the surprised captain. He waved her over to the line of men struggling to drag the heavy pumper engine into the snowy street. Molly took her place on the rope and gripped it hard. All heave hose, lads and lady, the captain ordered. Get this pumper on its way. 1, 2, 3, pull, they chanted. Molly and the men rolled the pumper engine straight away into the street. off they went. They dragged it through swiftly drifting snow. Wintry wind whipped at Molly's face and hands, but she never lost her grip. Soon Molly saw ribbons of soot twirling between snowflakes. She heard frightened voices floating through the frozen air. Then there it was, a small wooden house ablaze. "Step lively now," cried the captain through his tin speaker's trumpet. "Fire wagon and pumper to the side yard. Volunteers and buckets to the river." Close to the snowy bank, the captain chopped holes in the thick ice. Jonas and Isaac dropped buckets into the frigid water below. Molly and others formed a bucket brigade, passing water hand to hand, filling the tank fast. "Start pumping and be quick about it," the captain shouted. And you see the house on fire. Molly jumped to join the men at the pumper engine's sides. They cranked the heavy, long pump handles until water gushed into a steady stream from the fire hose. Hour after hour, Molly sprayed burning timber. Angry flames hissed and spit each time the water hit them. Molly pulled down chunks of burning roof with a hooked iron rod. Flaming shingles melted the snow the moment they hit the ground. Choking smoke kept everyone at bay and crept into Molly's nose. Cinders clung to her woolen shawl. A wall of heat warmed her cheeks. "My fire lads won't let this fire win, and neither will I," she thought. The fire raged and roared with the fury of a wild bobcat until at last it was out. The Van Horn family shivered in their snowy yard. A haze of smoke surrounded them. They were thankful to be alive, glad the fire had not spread throughout the neighborhood. Bone-tired, Molly took her place on the drag rope to pull the pumper back to the shed. Jonas, Isaac, and the other volunteers rushed to her side, broad smiles on their soot-covered faces. "Hooray for our new company volunteer," they cheered. "Molly, by golly, you're as fine a fire lad as any," added the captain. "In fact, you're wondrous fine." The author wants to tell you that, in their own words, they say, "I first met Molly Williams years ago when I was researching firefighting methods for another historical fiction manuscript. I was writing, and the text simply mentioned her as the first known female firefighter in America. Having been a little girl who wanted to drive a fire truck, I immediately set out to learn more. Gradually, additional bits and pieces of information about Molly and the legend for which she was known surfaced in books on the history of firefighting. My respect for Molly Williams' courage, strength, and heroic volunteerism grew with each retelling I found. So did my determination to bring her legend to life for young readers. My retelling fills out the original tale with historically accurate depictions of the era's firefighting techniques and equipment. It's my hope that Molly Williams' story will inspire young people who dream of one day becoming firefighters." The end. Thanks for joining us and learning about Molly Williams in the book Molly by Golly.